My husband betrayed me while I was serving overseas and tried to steal everything I'd worked for. What I did next changed both our lives forever. Please stay with me as I share my story, and if it resonates with you, please support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with others who might need to hear this. Your engagement truly means every. Now, let me tell you what happened. I was sitting in a folding chair under the blazing Arizona sun when my world crumbled. No heated argument, no emotional confrontation, just a cold digital document waiting in my email. My name is Sarah Mitchell, 37 years old, Staff Sergeant in the 82nd Airborne. I'd been stationed at Fort Huachuca for nearly 6 months when my husband, David, sent me the kind of message you have to read 3 times because it seems impossible. The subject line read, "We need to discuss our future." The message was brief and calculated, like he'd been practicing it. He'd already initiated proceedings. He'd already drained our shared savings account, and he'd already moved his girlfriend, a woman named Jessica, into our home in Tucson, Arizona. I stared at those words until my vision blurred with tears. Then I shut my laptop, walked to the aluminum basin outside our barracks, splashed cold water on my face, and controlled my breathing. When my duty ended that evening, I responded with just one word: acknowledged. No begging, no desperate questions, no angry threats. Corporal Martinez, my roommate, sensed the change in my usual chatter. "Everything okay, Sarah?" she asked, turning a page in her book without glancing up. "Just handling some family matters," I replied. She gave a single nod. Military folks understand when to respect your space. The reality? I wasn't completely blindsided. 8 months before my assignment, I could sense David pulling away. Small changes initially. He stopped inquiring about my training, began working longer hours at his digital marketing firm, suddenly developed an obsession with a fitness center across town, despite having equipment in our basement. Different clothing, unfamiliar people mentioned in conversation, and a smartphone that suddenly required more security than classified documents. I didn't investigate. That's not my character, but I'm not naive either. I began making discreet preparations of my own. I secured a small storage facility downtown using my sister's information. Inside, I placed items I couldn't afford to lose: my birth certificate, our marriage documentation, the VA mortgage papers for our property, which was solely in my name. I stored my grandmother's emerald necklace and my father's Rolex there as well. I also established a separate account at a local credit union David never frequented. I directed a portion of my salary there monthly, just enough to prevent starting from nothing if everything collapsed. The evening before departing for my assignment, David embraced me at the airport. His arms felt familiar, but his expression was distant. "Be careful out there," he said, like he was addressing a colleague heading to a conference. I should have trusted my instincts, but part of me wanted to believe I was mistaken. David and I had connected in 2010 at my brother's Memorial Day cookout in Phoenix. I was home between tours, taking leave. He was charming, witty, climbing the ranks in advertising. We married within 10 months. Initially, he claimed to respect my military service, even if he couldn't fully comprehend it. His background had no military connection. His father managed corporate finances. His mother taught elementary school. Occasionally, David would joke about when I was going to pursue a civilian career and settle into normal life. What he never grasped was that the military wasn't just my profession, it was my calling. By 2014, we purchased a comfortable 4-bedroom in North Tucson. My name was the only one on the loan, but I added him to the title. That's what you do when you believe in permanence. My parents died within 2 years of each other. Dad from a heart attack, Mom from cancer. She'd fought courageously. They left me enough to eliminate our educational debt and maintain substantial savings I deployed multiple times afterward. Iraq, Kuwait, Germany. Each return showed David seeming more disconnected, like he was marking time until my next departure. By 2020, the warning signs were unmistakable. He grew irritated when I called during his social gatherings, mentioned his buddy Trevor's newfound freedom after his divorce, and made casual comments about how we'd grown apart. One suggested marriage, counseling. He dismissed it, claiming we were experiencing a temporary rough patch. But then came weekend getaways with people I'd never encountered and expensive clothes he claimed were clearance discoveries. I didn't confront him directly. My father had always advised me to observe before acting, and my intuition, my soldier's instinct, warned me that change was coming. When your gut speaks that clearly, you listen. 3 weeks after that email destroyed my stability. I was in the cafeteria struggling with a plate of processed scrambled eggs when my phone chimed. It was an alert from our bank. Another large transaction, $87,500 withdrawn in a single transfer. I set down my utensil and opened the banking app. Our joint account showed $2,156 remaining. The $48,000 in our savings had vanished completely, moved to an account I didn't recognize. Private Williams from my squad noticed my expression. Bad news from home. I locked my phone, just some financial details to sort out. I wasn't about to discuss my personal crisis in front of the entire mess hall. That evening, I contacted the bank from the communications center. Took minimal time for them to confirm my suspicions. David had been transferring funds for weeks, small amounts initially, then larger sums. The major withdrawal started immediately after my deployment began. I ended the call and stood in that corridor for several minutes. Round me, soldiers laughed while video chatting with their children and partners. Their home lives remained stable. Mine was quietly disintegrating. That's when Corporal Martinez found me. Williams mentioned you looked shaken during dinner. What's happening? I typically keep personal matters private. But Martinez had once helped me through a difficult situation during training exercises in Nevada. She'd earned my confidence. My husband emptied our bank accounts and moved his girlfriend into our place. And we all know I've been exploring that. And we all know I've been exploring that path. But Martinez had once had one pally pecat. My Martinez had once at once picayed out. So when we said our precourse at one, go on with concalities. We said, I said, by we said, we know, I said, I said, my havity. Good way to do with you, can at this cana. We said it with uninka kinnison with you to psych, like with pow we so to we to get in you, sanida could kinda me, I hit a kami, you can meet a mad at a guide of me, you kaida kuga to you, I attack it with cause like a finnicar, I get you, I act, I got, you think, got, I into, you get, House, I said, filed for divorce while I was on duty. She didn't offer the standard responses like, I'm sorry to hear that, or you deserve better. She simply asked, what's your strategy? Still figuring that out? I admitted. Decide quickly. She said directly. Don't let him control your story. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I opened my laptop and accessed our home security system remotely. A detail David probably overlooked or assumed I couldn't monitor from here. The footage revealed a white pickup truck in our driveway. A stranger was walking my golden retriever, was wearing my old university sweatshirt, drinking from my favorite mug. And there was David in my kitchen, laughing with Jessica as she leaned against the island I had spent months saving money to install. Something fundamental shifted inside me. Not fury, not immediately. Something more controlled, more precise. Determination. I retrieved a notepad and began making a list. Contact Lisa, my former Army colleague who became an attorney. Research VA loan regulations. Speak with command about emergency leave. Investigate any property refinancing activity. Monitor military pension accounts for unauthorized changes. I wasn't going to waste energy on tears. I was going to systematically dismantle his scheme. At dawn, before my shift began, I emailed Lisa. Need legal assistance. Confidential. Critical. Her response arrived within minutes. Call me on a secure line immediately. After we spoke, I understood exactly what needed to be done. I didn't need to confront David immediately. I didn't need to create drama. I just needed to let his own greed guide him directly into my carefully laid trap. When I returned to American soil 7 weeks later, my plan was already operational. I didn't inform David of my return. I reserved a hotel room under a different name and met Lisa at a restaurant on Tucson's outskirts. You look exhausted, she said, sliding a manila folder across our table. I feel it, I responded. Inside were property deeds, loan documentation, bank records, and one additional page. Discovered something fascinating, she said. It was a refinancing application bearing my signature, except it wasn't actually my signature. The middle initial was incorrect. The handwriting angle was wrong. David did this. I asked, already knowing the truth. Lisa confirmed it. 3 months ago, he extracted $320,000 in home equity. Since the VA loan is exclusively yours, forgery was necessary. Let me guess. Jessica's involved too. Worse, Lisa said. He listed her as co-applicant. And she has a previous fraud conviction from 2019. I leaned back in the booth, my fingers gripping my coffee cup tighter. What are my legal options? Depends, she replied. What outcome do you want? I considered this carefully. I want what legally belongs to me, and I want him to face real consequences. Lisa's smile was knowing. Then, here's our approach. The following morning, I drove past our house for the first time since returning. David's SUV was absent, but Jessica's blue Honda sat in the driveway. I parked 3 blocks away, close enough to observe without being detected. For a moment, I considered walking up, ringing the doorbell, and watching David's reaction when he saw me. But that wasn't the objective. Instead, I drove to the bank that had processed the refinancing. The loan specialist was a woman in her 40s with anxious mannerisms. I introduced myself, presented my military identification, then showed my actual signature on my driver's license. When I placed the forged application on her desk, her hands trembled. This signature isn't yours, she said. Not even close. Her face went pale. We need to report this immediately. I've already filed a police report, I informed her. Just ensure the proper authorities review these documents. That evening, my phone buzzed with David's text. Sarah, who have you been speaking with at the bank? Jessica says someone was asking questions. I didn't respond. Silence had become my most powerful weapon. The next day, I visited the county clerk's office and submitted paperwork challenging the refinance. Due to fraud. I also filed a restriction preventing any property changes without my written authorization. 2 days later, David called. I let it go to voicemail. Sarah, we need to discuss this. The bank is calling about the house. If this concerns the divorce, we can handle it like mature adults. It's the same language he'd used in that desert email. The irony wasn't lost on me. That afternoon, Lisa called. They've frozen the refinancing funds. Excellent. There's more, she continued. David's been driving your Jeep, correct? The one registered in your name? Yes. He was pulled over this morning for driving with a suspended license due to DUI charges I didn't even know existed. They impounded the vehicle. I smiled genuinely for the first time in weeks. Perfect. That's not everything, Lisa added. They found stolen prescription pads in the glove compartment from Jessica's dental office. They weren't blank. I closed my eyes, so she's been stealing them. Appears so. The authorities are investigating. I remembered that security footage. David in my kitchen. Jessica comfortable in my space, like my life was something they could simply take over and inhabit. That moment eliminated any remaining doubt I had. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This was about destroying a network of greed and entitlement and ensuring it never affected me again. The following morning, I met with a bank fraud investigator named Detective Rodriguez. He had weary eyes, a coffee stain on his shirt, and the demeanor of someone who'd witnessed this scenario repeatedly. Spouse deploys, the other sees opportunity, he said, spreading documents across his desk. It's devastating, but it occurs. How much is missing? I asked. He paused. From the house, approximately $87,200 has been transferred out. To where? Not my jurisdiction to specify, but if your attorney subpoenas the records, you'll get answers. Lisa acted swiftly. Within an hour, she called back. The transfers went to a man named Rick Thompson. He's a real estate broker specializing in quick cash transactions. My stomach nodded. So they were planning to sell my house. Almost certainly. And here's the interesting part. Thompson has completed multiple deals with David previously, below market sales to cash buyers under the table commissions. I believe this was orchestrated before you even left for deployment. I sat in my hotel room staring at nothing. This wasn't simply betrayal, it was a calculated plan, and I intended to destroy it completely. 2 days later, David texted unexpectedly. Sarah, we need to meet face to face. Meet me at Reed Park tomorrow at 1 p.m. I showed the message to Lisa over breakfast. Don't go, she said firmly. Nothing positive comes from seeing him right now. I won't, I said, but I want to know what he's doing while he thinks I'm meeting him. The next morning, Lisa and I parked across from my house. At 11:30 a.m., David and Jessica left in her Honda, heading downtown toward the park where he expected to find me. Now, I told Lisa, at 11:50, a silver BMW with Rick Thompson Realty decals pulled into my driveway. David's co-conspirator had arrived. I opened my phone and accessed my home security application. When I installed the system 2 years ago, I placed cameras throughout the interior and exterior, with everything automatically backing up to cloud storage. David had likely forgotten this detail or underestimated my technological capabilities. The live feed activated immediately. Thompson was in my living room with professional camera equipment, photographing everything. Jessica's voice carried from the kitchen, discussing modifications they'd made to increase property value. Then Thompson's voice, quiet but audible. List at $445,000. I have a cash buyer ready. They'll take it for $395,000. Everyone gets their share as usual. Don't worry about Sarah, David's voice said from somewhere off camera. Military people. Create noise initially, but they have other priorities. She'll accept a small settlement just to avoid hassle. Lisa's eyes widened. Are you recording this? Every second, I said. I forwarded the live feed directly to Agent Chen at the FBI's Phoenix Field office with a brief message happening right now. 15 minutes later, unmarked federal vehicles descended on my street like storm clouds. We observed from the corner as agents surrounded the property, weapons secured but ready. Within moments, Rick Thompson and Jessica were being escorted out in handcuffs. Agent Chen called me immediately. We captured them on video discussing fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit real estate theft. This evidence is substantial. And David, I asked, is returning from your supposed meeting. We'll be ready. When David pulled into the driveway, Jessica was already secured in a bureau vehicle, and Thompson was sitting on the sidewalk in restraints. The expression on his face when agents surrounded him almost compensated for months of betrayal. I remained down the street watching. I didn't need to participate in the arrest scene. That was their domain, not mine. Agent Chen contacted me. 30 minutes later, your husband is in custody. We're processing charges. How aggressively you want to pursue this will depend on what we discover and, honestly, what you prefer. I thought about the years I'd invested building that home, the deployments I'd endured, the savings I'd accumulated, and how he'd given it all to someone else like it was his to distribute. I want him to experience the same helplessness he tried to leave me with, I said finally. No compromises. The federal case progressed more rapidly than anticipated. David, Jessica, and Rick Thompson each faced charges of conspiracy, wire fraud, and forgery. Jessica and Thompson both accepted plea agreements within days, providing emails, text messages, and transaction records that left David with no defense. The evidence revealed an ugly truth. David had been involved in Thompson's scheme from the start. Their strategy was straightforward: exploit my deployment to forge my signature. Refinance the house for hundreds of thousands, sell it below market, value to a cash buyer Thompson had arranged, and divide the profits. When Jessica realized the FBI had recorded her, she cooperated immediately. In her statement, she admitted David had boasted about timing everything, while Sarah was too distracted overseas to notice anything. Lisa accompanied me to court the day David testified. His attorney attempted to characterize it as a misunderstanding and marital communication breakdown, but the forged signature wire transfers and recorded conversation destroyed that defense. Ultimately, the plea agreement sentenced David to 2.5 years in federal prison, complete restitution of stolen funds, and forfeiture of any claim to the house or my military benefits. Jessica received 14 months. Thompson got 8 years due to multiple prior convictions. The divorce finalized 4 months later. No spousal support, no shared property, just a clean final separation of everything we'd built. The day I signed the final documents, Agent Chen called me. Thought, you should know. Your case helped us connect Thompson to 7 other military family scams. Those families might recover their losses because you refused to give up. For the first time in months, my chest felt lighter. Not joyful exactly, but justified. 18 months later, I sold the house. I couldn't imagine living there with all those memories of betrayal embedded in the walls. With the proceeds, I purchased a modest 2-bedroom cabin in the Saguaro National Forest, quiet, secluded, and entirely mine. 15 acres of desert surrounded it, a dry creek bed running behind, and a covered porch where the sunsets looked like masterpieces. I took early retirement from the military. 18 years of service was sufficient. I'd contributed everything I could. These days, I do small woodworking projects for neighbors, spend mornings hiking with my new border collie, Ranger, and evenings reading on the porch. My pension covers expenses. My peace covers everything else. Occasionally, I receive letters from other military families who've heard my story. One woman from Colorado wrote, "You don't know me, but you saved our home. Thank you for standing up when it would have been easier to surrender." I keep that letter attached to my refrigerator. It reminds me that sometimes the battle isn't just for yourself. It's for people who can't fight back yet. Regarding David, last I heard, he's still incarcerated. Jessica returned to some small town in New Mexico, working under an assumed name. Thompson's appeal was rejected. The system functioned properly. This time, and me. I'm creating a life no one can forge, refinance, or steal. Because certain things, the ones worth protecting, you defend with everything you possess. Sometimes the people you'd sacrifice for are the same ones secretly betraying you. But here's the reality. Betrayal doesn't get the final word unless you surrender it. I didn't, and neither should you. This story affected you, whether anger, hope, or even some inspiration. Let me know in the comments. Where in the world are you watching from? And what time is it there right now? Your stories matter too. Please share them.